Okay, so you want to talk space exploration.
Seems like it.
And not just like a quick trip to orbit, right? We're talking multiple planets, moon bases, even interstellar travel.
Some seriously ambitious stuff you've been reading.
Right. It's a lot, but what I find so fascinating is you're really focused on the human side of things. It's not just about the rockets and the equations. It's about what it would actually take for us to live out there.
You're absolutely right. And, what's remarkable about the sources you've chosen is how they bridge the gap between, historical exploration and the cutting-edge science that we're seeing today. It's not just gazing up at the stars and dreaming anymore. It's about charting a tangible course to actually get us there.
Exactly. And speaking of charting a course, there are some really interesting historical parallels to explore. Did you know that the modern race to space, it was basically sparked by the Cold War?
It's true. History has a way of throwing us curveballs like that.
Yeah.
But that Cold War parallel, it's surprisingly relevant when you look a little closer.
How so?
Well, both superpowers back then, they were driven by this potent mix of, fear and ambition. And it's that combination that often ignites these truly remarkable technological leaps.
That's interesting.
And we're seeing that happen again today, with these private companies joining the space race.
True. And your Mankind Beyond Earth excerpt, it really digs into this. It highlights how intertwined nationalism and scientific advancement were back then. It wasn't just about getting to space first. It was about proving technological dominance on a global stage.
Absolutely. And what's striking is how accurately some of those early space visionaries, how accurately they predicted the future.
Oh, yeah. Like who?
Well, take Hubertus Strohhold, for example, a real pioneer in space medicine. Back in the 1940s, he predicted that the first manned space flights, they'd happen between 1964 and 1969.
Wow.
And he was right. That's not just a lucky guess. That speaks to an underlying understanding of technological trajectories.
Yeah.
It was incredibly prescient.
That's amazing. It's like he tapped into something back then, this understanding that spaceflight, it wasn't just a fantasy, it was an inevitability waiting to happen.
Exactly.
Of course, progress doesn't come without its setbacks. Mankind Beyond Earth, it also recounts those tragic accidents, the Apollo 1 fire, the Challenger explosion, the Columbia disaster. As devastating as those events were, they ultimately forced crucial improvements in safety.
Absolutely. Pushing boundaries always involves risk, but those tragedies, as awful as they were, they forced us to get better, to prioritize safety without completely stifling progress.
Right.
And that thread of balancing risk and responsibility, it continues today. The key difference is that now the driving force is less about national rivalry and more about this economic and scientific opportunity.
It's true, as a very different landscape.
Think about SpaceX, Blue Origin. These private companies are pushing the limits, fueled by ambition and the allure of profit.
So it's like we can thank Cold War tensions for, kickstarting humanity's spacefaring dreams.
In a way, yeah.
Who knew geopolitics could be so cosmic, right? But I want to shift gears a bit here. Your sources, they also delve into the more practical realities of living in space, the life support aspect, creating a self-sustaining bubble of Earth out in the void.
It's one of the most fundamental challenges we face.
Yeah.
And your sources do a fantastic job of highlighting it.
Totally. Take something as basic as growing food, for example. Both Mankind Beyond Earth and Abundance, they talk about creating sustainable food systems in space. Vertical farms, using Martian soil, even the potential for, genetically engineered crops. It's all on the table.
What's key here is this concept of sustainability. We can't rely on these endless shipments from Earth. Like those early explorers who ventured into the unknown, we need to learn to live off the land, so to speak.
Right. We can't just pack a lunch for a trip to Mars.
Exactly. And the historical parallels here, like expeditions to the Arctic and Antarctic, those are fascinating.
Yeah.
It's that same pioneering spirit, that resourcefulness that's essential for sustained space exploration.
It really is like camping, but on a cosmic scale.
And speaking of camping, remember those freeze-dried meals?
Oh, yeah.
Space food has come a long way, hasn't it?
It has. It has.
But it's not just what we eat. It's dealing with what's left over.
Absolutely. Mankind Beyond Earth goes into detail about this, about closed versus open systems. See, here on Earth, we take for granted that we have this open system. Waste is practically unlimited. But in space, every single resource is precious. Everything needs to be recycled, repurposed. It's a massive engineering challenge.
Whoosh.
But it's also this incredible opportunity to learn from how nature handles waste
Yeah.
in closed ecosystems.
So it's like we're learning to mimic Earth's natural cycles in miniature.
Yeah.
Turning waste into resources, just like a perfectly balanced ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's got to be inspiring for you, knowing your interest in sustainability.
It really is. And what's particularly exciting is this potential of using things that we might traditionally consider, well, waste.
Okay, like abundance talks about the potential of microbes, not as hazards this time, but as potential biofuel sources. It's all about looking at resources through a new lens, about finding these creative solutions to problems we've only begun to imagine.
It's amazing how much we can learn from studying Earth's own systems, especially as we try to recreate them elsewhere. But of course, it's not just about the physical challenges of surviving in space, is it? There's this whole other level, the human element.
You're exactly right, and that's where your sources really excel. They go beyond the technical and delve into the psychological and physiological challenges of prolonged space travel, and this is where things get even more interesting.
Because it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.
Exactly.
And that means understanding how our bodies and minds, how they react to the unique stresses of space. Take something like microgravity, for example. Do you know that it can actually cause bone and muscle loss?
It's a major concern, but we have decades of research from astronauts on the International Space Station to draw on. We can learn a lot from them.
Right, yeah.
And believe it or not, even studies on bed rest here on Earth, they can actually mimic some of the effects of microgravity and offer valuable insights.
It's remarkable how much seemingly unrelated research can be applied to space exploration.
It is.
And then there's the weirdness of circadian rhythms in space that Mankind Beyond Earth talks about. Could a Mars day throw your sleep schedule totally out of whack? Absolutely.
It could, yeah.
And then there's the mental toll, the isolation and confinement of prolonged space travel.
Thankfully, we're not going in blind. Research from submarines and polar expeditions where people experience similar prolonged isolation has been really invaluable.
Right.
And understanding how to mitigate those effects and keep crews psychologically healthy, especially during these long duration missions.
It really makes you appreciate the interconnectedness of these seemingly completely separate fields of study.
It's true.
But there's one challenge we haven't touched on yet that looms large in both sources.
Oh.
Radiation.
Oh, yes.
It's a big one.
Radiation is a constant threat in deep space, a significant hurdle we have to overcome. Mankind Beyond Earth details the various types of radiation we'd need to contend with. We're talking solar flares, cosmic rays, and the potential health risks. They're very real. They can range from, an increased risk of cancer to other long-term health effects.
Scary stuff.
It is. It is.
But thankfully, there is hope.
There is.
Mankind Beyond Earth also discusses some of the exciting research into these innovative shielding technologies and even biological countermeasures inspired by, get this, extremophile bacteria.
Incredible, aren't they?
Those things that can withstand these incredible amounts of radiation, it's amazing.
It really speaks to human ingenuity, our determination to find solutions, even when we're facing these seemingly impossible obstacles.
It's true, it's true. And this actually brings us to a really encouraging aspect that both sources emphasize. It's not as far off as we sometimes think. Remember that orange tree analogy from Abundance?
Oh, I love that one.
It's all about perspective. It can seem impossible from one viewpoint, but with the right tools and the right approach, it becomes achievable.
It's true.
We're not talking centuries before, maybe even less.
Precisely. Access to resources, it's often limited not by their scarcity, but by our technological ability to reach them and utilize them. And the pace of technological advancement, especially in fields like AI, 3D printing, even genetic engineering, it's increasing exponentially. That's where the game changes dramatically.
It's true. We're talking about things like self-replicating robots that could construct structures on Mars before humans even arrive.
And lab-grown meat. It could revolutionize food production not just in space, but right here on Earth.
Imagine steak dinner on Mars without needing to raise any cattle.
Right.
It's not science fiction anymore, is it? These technologies, they're being actively developed right now.
Right now, yeah.
And then there's the development of these advanced life support systems that recycle everything, minimizing waste, maximizing efficiency. It's like creating a miniature self-sustaining Earth within a spacecraft or a habitat.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about all of this.
Yeah.
It's not just about the technology itself, it's how these advances change the way we think. about resources, about possibilities, even about our own potential.
It's like space exploration is this incredible catalyst for innovation, pushing us to rethink everything we thought we knew about what's possible. And that actually brings us to this really cool concept that both sources touch on, this idea that space exploration, it isn't just about planting flags on other worlds.
It's about so much more than that.
It's about understanding ourselves and our place in the universe.
Mankind Beyond Earth phrases it beautifully. It's about learning to live within our means, both on Earth and beyond.
I like that.
The challenges that we're facing in space, from achieving sustainability to resource management, they often mirror the challenges we face here at home.
Just magnified.
Exactly.
So by trying to solve these seemingly impossible problems of living beyond Earth, could we actually find solutions to some of Earth's most pressing issues?
That's a very important question. And it speaks to the deeper meaning of space exploration. It's not about escaping Earth. It's about learning to be better stewards of our own planet. It's about looking inward as much as outward. It really is about looking both inward and outward. And speaking of outward, both sources point to the moon as this crucial stepping stone on our path to Mars and beyond.
Oh, absolutely. The moon seems to be having a real moment right now. It's not just this dusty, forgotten relic anymore.
Not at all.
It's becoming the proving ground for the technologies and strategies that allow us to go farther than we ever have before.
Exactly. There's this growing consensus that establishing a permanent lunar base, it isn't just a cool idea, it's essential for the future of space exploration. And your excerpt from Mankind Beyond Earth, it really digs into the reasons why.
Well, for one thing, it highlights how the moon is like this perfect testbed for all the things we'll need on those longer missions to places like Mars.
It's true.
It's relatively close to Earth. We've already been there.
We have.
And it offers this unique environment to really push the boundaries of what we can do.
The concept of in situ resource utilization, ISRU as it's called, it's a perfect example.
ISRU, it sounds very official.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it just means using the resources that are already present on the moon to support human life.
So, like, using lunar regolith moon dust essentially to build habitats.
Exactly.
Or extracting water ice from those permanently shadowed craters at the winter poles.
Precisely. And Mankind Beyond Earth talks about how missions like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and the LC-ROSS Impactor, they've actually confirmed the presence of that water ice.
Wow.
That's a game changer.
Totally. It means we don't have to haul all our water from Earth, which would be, well, outrageously expensive to say the least.
To put it mildly.
But, let's be honest, the moon isn't exactly known for its 5-star accommodations.
That's for sure.
What are some of the challenges of actually living there long term?
Well, it is a pretty harsh mistress. There's no air to breathe, the temperature swings are extreme, and the radiation environment is intense. But as Mankind Beyond Earth points out, these challenges, they aren't insurmountable. We've already gained a lot of experience with, thermal engineering from the International Space Station, and we're constantly developing better, more effective radiation shielding.
That's good news. And the book even mentions some potential advantages of the moon's lower gravity compared to the microgravity of deep space. Could spending time on the moon actually help mitigate some of that bone and muscle loss we talked about earlier?
It's a very real possibility. Maintaining astronaut health is absolutely crucial for those longer missions to Mars, where they'll need to be in top physical condition when they arrive. So yeah, the moon could be this vital training ground, not just for our technology, but for our bodies too.
That's fascinating to think about how adapting to one environment in space could better prepare us for another. But Mankind Beyond Earth also brought up a somewhat unsettling possibility. This potential for genetic adaptation to lower gravity environments.
Ah, yes.
It's a big one.
It's a question that's equal parts fascinating and daunting. If humans were to live on the moon or Mars for generations, would our bodies actually evolve to adapt to that different gravity?
And if so, what would those adaptations even look like?
Right.
And would those changes make it harder or even impossible to return to Earth? Would we essentially become a new species, uniquely adapted to life on another world? It's almost like a thought experiment come to life.
It really is. It just highlights how much we still don't know, how much there is to learn and discover about the long-term effects of living beyond Earth. But to bring us back down to Earth for a moment, so to speak, both sources are very clear that space exploration isn't simply about planting flags and claiming territory.
Right, it's about more than that.
It's bigger than that. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible right here, right now.
Absolutely. And Abundance is just jam-packed with examples of how space exploration has led to all these technological spin-offs that benefit us all right here on Earth.
Oh, I know. It's incredible.
We're talking solar power, 3D printing, advanced medical diagnostics. The list goes on and on.
It's a great example of how what might seem out there can have this really direct and really profound impact on our everyday lives.
It's true.
But while we're on the topic of practicality, let's talk about a challenge that's, well, literally down to earth, growing food in space.
Right, because even astronauts need to eat their vegetables, right?
Exactly.
Both sources really hammer home this need for developing sustainable food systems, whether it's on the moon, Mars, or even like a spacecraft bound for the stars.
Right. It's not as easy as just tossing some seeds in lunar regolith and hoping for the best.
Yeah, I imagine not.
Mankind Beyond Earth delves into the unique challenges of cultivating plants in these environments, where they might encounter limited sunlight, weird atmospheric compositions, and of course that ever-present cosmic radiation.
So it's like trying to grow a garden in a completely alien environment. How are scientists even tackling this challenge?
That's where these cutting-edge techniques like hydroponics and aeroponics, they come into play. These methods allow us to grow plants without soil, using these nutrient-rich water solutions and carefully controlled environments.
So it's about control.
It's all about control, creating this mini ecosystem perfectly suited to the conditions.
So smart. And what about that Martian soil we discussed earlier? It's not exactly known for being fertile, is it?
True. That's why scientists are exploring ways to enrich that Martian soil.
Oh, okay.
Perhaps even using those microbes we mentioned earlier to help, break down organic matter and release vital nutrients. It's a bit like giving Mars a helping hand to kickstart its own agricultural revolution.
It's amazing how we're learning to adapt not just to space, but to adapt space itself to our needs.
It is.
And speaking of adaptations, Abundance mentions this fascinating possibility. Using genetically engineered crops that are specifically tailored to thrive in these challenging off-world environments.
It's an area with immense potential, and it really highlights the significant role that biotechnology could play in space exploration. Imagine crops that are engineered to be more resistant to radiation or require less water or even have enhanced nutritional content.
And who knows, maybe those innovations could even help us address food security issues here on Earth, too.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
It's incredible how space exploration often presents us with these challenges that, in trying to solve them, we end up finding solutions with these far broader applications.
It's true.
But while we're on the topic of broader implications, Mankind Beyond Earth doesn't shy away from addressing some of the ethical dilemmas raised by space exploration, does it?
It certainly does not. And one of the biggest questions that comes up is this issue of resource ownership.
Ooh, yeah.
Who owns the resources on other planets?
Right. It's a question that sparks debate and speculation. The 1967 Outer Space Treaty, it prohibits national appropriation of celestial bodies.
Right.
But it doesn't really address the issue of, private ownership or commercial exploitation of those resources.
A bit of a gray area.
A bit of a gray area, for sure.
And it raises all sorts of really complex questions about, how we manage and govern access to space resources as exploration becomes increasingly commercialized.
It's true.
And that's really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to ethical consideration.
Right, because then there are questions about planetary protection, making sure we don't accidentally contaminate other worlds with Earth-based microbes.
Absolutely.
And of course, the potential long-term impact of space travel on human physiology and psychology. It's like every question we answer just leads to a dozen more.
It's true, but that's what makes it all so compelling, isn't it? Space exploration, it's not just about rockets and robots. It's about expanding our understanding of ourselves, our place in the universe, what it truly means to be human. It's a journey that challenges not just our technology, but our ethics and our philosophy as well.
That's beautifully put. And Mankind Beyond Earth seems particularly keen on examining one particular destination, Mars.
It's true.
It really dives into the nitty-gritty of not just getting there, but actually surviving once we arrive.
And surviving on Mars, it's a whole different ballgame compared to the moon.
Oh, how so?
Well, the challenges are greater, the distances are vaster, the stakes are higher.
Riskier.
But as your sources point out, so are the potential rewards.
It's true. It's like Mars is the ultimate frontier, the planet that's really captured our collective imaginations like no other.
There's something about that red planet that speaks to something deep within us.
It really does.
It's the planet that's most like Earth in many ways, and the one that holds the greatest potential for human colonization, if we can rise to the occasion.
If, big if, but mankind beyond Earth doesn't sugarcoat the difficulties.
No, it doesn't.
It lays out a pretty sobering picture of just how tough it would be to get there. We're talking a journey of months, confined to a spacecraft, exposed to all that radiation we talked about, with no guarantee of success.
It's a daunting prospect. But think about what it says about the human spirit, this drive to explore, to push beyond the limits of what's considered possible, even in the face of such incredible risks. It's inspiring.
It really is. And the book even discusses the psychological challenges of such a long and isolated journey. Imagine the potential for interpersonal conflict among the crew, the mental fatigue, the sheer psychological strain of being so far from home for so long with so much at stake.
It really underscores the importance of selecting the right astronauts. It's not just about technical skills, it's about psychological resilience, teamwork, the ability to adapt to unforeseen circumstances.
It's like assembling the ultimate team for the ultimate road trip, but the destination is millions of miles away and there's absolutely no turning back. But let's imagine, just for a moment, that we do make it to Mars. What then? Mankind beyond Earth paints a pretty vivid picture of the challenges that would still await us.
And those challenges, they're formidable, to say the least. We're talking about a thin, unbreathable atmosphere, frigid temperatures, planet-wide dust storms that can last for months, and of course, that constant radiation bombardment we talked about.
It's both terrifying and exhilarating. It's like stepping onto an alien world, a world that's both hostile and alluring at the same time.
That's the strange allure of Mars, isn't it? It's a world that demands our absolute best, our ingenuity, our creativity, our ability to adapt and persevere, even in the face of such adversity.
And Mankind Beyond Earth really delves into what those adaptations might look like. It talks about pressurized habitats, advanced life support systems, even the possibility of terraforming.
Yes, terraforming.
Transforming Mars into a more Earth-like planet.
It's a long-term goal, of course, a project that would likely span generations. But it speaks to the audacity of our ambitions. We don't just want to visit Mars, we want to make it our home, to establish a new branch of humanity on another world.
It's a bold vision, but terraforming is a concept that comes with its own set of complex ethical considerations, doesn't it?
It does.
It raises questions about our right to alter another planet so drastically, even if it's to make it habitable for us.
It's a debate that really reflects a deeper question about our relationship with these other planets. Do we have this responsibility to preserve them in their pristine state? Or do we have the right to mold them to some extent to meet our needs?
Right.
There are no easy answers.
Not at all. But ethical considerations aside, are there even enough resources on Mars to make a sustainable human presence possible?
That is the crucial question. And the good news is, Mankind Beyond Earth seems to suggest that Mars does possess many of the raw materials that we would need.
Like what specifically? What's Mars got in store for us?
Well, for starters, there's water ice trapped within the polar caps and beneath the surface.
Okay, yeah.
There are also a variety of really valuable minerals and metals within the Martian soil itself.
Interesting.
And there's even the possibility of extracting carbon dioxide from that thin Martian atmosphere to create fuel and other vital materials.
So it's like Mars is this giant, untapped resource depot just waiting for us to unlock its potential.
Precisely. And that's where all those resource-liberating technologies we talked about earlier, that's where they come into play.
Right.
Abundance really envisions this future where we utilize 3D printing to create structures from Martian regolith, genetically engineer plants to thrive in the Martian environment, even develop these autonomous robots that are capable of mining resources and constructing infrastructure. It's amazing.
Wow. It's like we're on the verge of a new industrial revolution, but this one's happening 40 million miles away.
Something like that, yeah. But even with all those resources, there's still the issue of sustainability.
Right, of course.
It's not just about extracting these resources. It's about using them responsibly and sustainably. We're talking about creating these closed-loop systems where waste is constantly recycled and reused, minimizing our impact on the Martian environment.
So it's almost like we're getting this second chance, this opportunity to learn from the mistakes we've made here on Earth and do things differently on Mars.
It's a powerful lesson, isn't it? By pushing the boundaries of what's possible on Mars, by learning to coexist with this harsh and unforgiving environment, we might just gain the knowledge and the wisdom we need to live more sustainably here at home.
So in a way, Mars isn't just a destination, it's a mirror, reflecting back our potential, both for good and for bad.
That's a really interesting way to put it. It's a world that will challenge us to be our best, to innovate, to collaborate, to think beyond the limitations of our current perspective. And who knows, in the process of reaching for Mars, we might just discover a better way to live right here on Earth. But Mars is just one planet in a galaxy filled with possibilities. Both mankind beyond Earth and abundance, they hint at something even more audacious: interstellar travel.
No, that's getting into some truly mind-blowing territory. We're talking about traveling to other star systems, other planets, other possibilities that we can barely even imagine. It really is getting into mind-blowing territory. It is the ultimate dream, isn't it? To journey beyond our own little corner of the galaxy and explore those twinkling points of light that we see every night.
It's a dream that's as old as humanity itself.
Right.
But as mankind beyond Earth is careful to point out, interstellar travel, well, it comes with a whole new level of challenges.
To put it mildly, we're talking distances that are almost impossible to even grasp, right? Like Alpha Centauri, the closest star system to our own, it's over 4 light years away.
That's right. And a light year, just to put it in perspective, is the distance that light travels in 1 year, which is about, get this, 6 trillion miles?
6 trillion with a T. Okay, yeah, that's a long way.
That means that even if we could travel at 1% the speed of light, which, let's be clear, is currently far beyond our technological capabilities, it would still take us well over 400 years to reach Alpha Centauri.
That's longer than the United States has even existed. It's almost impossible to wrap your mind around.
It really is a timescale that stretches beyond human comprehension. But that hasn't stopped some really brilliant minds from exploring a range of, well, theoretical concepts, let's call them, for interstellar travel. Mankind beyond Earth touches on some of these fusion-powered spacecraft, antimatter propulsion, even some more, let's say, out-there ideas like warp drive.
Warp drives. Okay, now that sounds like something straight out of Star Trek.
It definitely has that science fiction ring to it, doesn't it? But it highlights just what kind of audacious thinking is required when we even begin to contemplate something as grand as interstellar travel. We're talking about bending the very fabric of space-time, challenging the very laws of physics as we currently understand them. It's mind-boggling.
It really is. But even if, and it's big if, we could somehow develop the technology to travel at these near-light speeds, mankind beyond Earth reminds us that there's still this monumental challenge of sustaining human life during a journey that could potentially span multiple generations.
Exactly. We're talking about generations of humans being born, living their entire lives, and dying, all aboard a self-contained spacecraft. This miniature world hurtling through the vastness of interstellar space. It's a concept that I find both awe-inspiring and just a little bit terrifying, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. It raises so many philosophical and ethical questions. Like, what kind of society would even evolve on such a ship? How would they cope with the isolation, the confinement, the knowledge that their very destination was still centuries away?
It's a lot to ponder. It would be like creating a microcosm of humanity, this tiny, self-sustaining civilization launched out into the cosmos, carrying with it all the hopes, dreams, and anxieties of our species.
It's a story that's just pregnant with possibilities, both triumphs and tragedies. It's almost too much for the human mind to grasp.
That is the beauty and the terror of contemplating such grand themes, isn't it? And it is important to remember that we don't know if we'll ever achieve interstellar travel. It may very well remain forever out of reach. But the very act of pondering it, of exploring those what-ifs, it pushes us to expand our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe, which is really what it's all about, isn't it?
It really is. But speaking of big questions, there's another aspect of space exploration that both of these sources touch on that just begs to be explored. The search for life beyond Earth. It's a question that has captivated humanity for as long as we've looked up at the stars, hasn't it?
It's the ultimate question, isn't it? Are we alone in this vast universe? And thankfully, space exploration is providing us with more tools than ever to actually search for an answer.
It really feels like every new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle. Like, Mankind Beyond Earth talks about how finding water ice on the Moon and Mars, it significantly increases the chances of maybe discovering evidence of past or even present life on those worlds.
Right. And it's not just about finding microbial life or fossils. It's about the possibility of discovering intelligent life. Other civilizations out there, somewhere in this vast cosmic ocean, Imagine the impact that would have on humanity.
It would be a paradigm shift unlike anything we've ever experienced. And Abundance discusses how the Kepler Space Telescope, it's already identified thousands of exoplanets, planets that are orbiting other stars,
Thousands.
some of which might actually have the right conditions to harbor life as we know it.
Exactly.
And with new telescopes, like the James Webb Space Telescope, coming online all the time, our ability to detect and study these distant worlds is only going to improve.
It's an incredibly exciting time to be exploring these questions. But imagine, for a moment, if you will, what it would actually mean to discover another intelligent species out there. It would revolutionize everything. Our understanding of our place in the universe, our history, our very understanding of what it means to be human.
Wow. It would be like that moment when humans first realized that the Earth wasn't flat. This complete upending of our perceived reality.
Exactly.
But as mind-blowing as that discovery would be, it would also come with a whole new set of challenges and questions, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. For starters, how would we even begin to communicate with another intelligent species? How would we navigate the ethical and cultural complexities of an encounter like that? Honestly, these are questions that we can barely even begin to comprehend right now. It's exhilarating and more than a little daunting.
It's like we're standing on the edge of the Subaru's discovery, but that discovery, it might just open a door to a whole new universe of mysteries and challenges that we haven't even begun to imagine.
And that's the beauty of exploration, isn't it? It's not just about finding the answers. It's about daring to ask new questions, pushing the boundaries of our knowledge, and embracing the unknown with a sense of wonder and possibility.
It's about remembering that for all that we've learned, the universe is still this vast, uncharted territory, just full of secrets that are just waiting to be uncovered.
And as we continue to venture further into the cosmos, we're bound to encounter wonders and challenges that we can't even fathom right now. And that brings us back to what I think is the most powerful thread that runs through both of these sources. Space exploration, it isn't just about reaching a destination. It's about the journey itself, the challenges we overcome, the innovations we create, the knowledge we gather, and the ways in which that journey changes us.
It reminds me of that quote, "It is not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves." And facing the immense challenges of space, it forces us to confront our own limitations, to push beyond what we thought was possible. And in doing so, we discover a greater understanding not just of the universe, but of ourselves.
Beautifully put. And I think both Mankind Beyond Earth and Abundance, they beautifully capture the optimism that's inherent in that journey as well. They remind us that we have the potential to not just explore the universe, but to shape it, to learn from it, and to ultimately create a better future for all humankind.
There's this infectious sense of possibility in these sources, this belief that we have the power within us to solve even the most daunting challenges, and to create a future where limitations are seen as opportunities for innovation.
Exactly. And that's the legacy that we're building, isn't it? It's not just about the rockets or the habitats. It's about pushing the boundaries of human potential and inspiring future generations to look up at the stars and see not just a destination, but a reflection of their own limitless possibilities.
This entire deep dive has been incredible. From the practicalities of surviving on other planets to the mind-bending possibilities of interstellar travel and the search for extraterrestrial life, it's all connected by this incredible tapestry of human ingenuity, curiosity, and this enduring drive to explore what lies beyond the horizon.
It's quite a journey. And as you continue to explore these topics and delve into new ones, remember that the future of space exploration, well, it's a story that's still being written. And you, with your curiosity, your passion, and your unique perspective, you have a role to play in writing the next chapter.
So let's all keep looking up at the stars with that sense of wonder and possibility, because who knows what incredible discoveries and unimaginable advances await us in the vast expanse of the cosmos.